Hello everyone! In FPV we have a lot of different options. We've got HD, we've got analog, we've got little tiny quads, we've got big giant quads, and today what we're going to cover is the ability to change how the WalkSnail video system appears, at least after the fact. Sometimes we might want to see in our own recordings the OSD elements from Betaflight. Unfortunately, WalkSnail does not record that. HD0 does give us that option. If you ever, in your HD0 recordings, don't want the OSD, you can turn the OSD off by assigning it to a switch in Betaflight. I'm sure Joshua Bardwell probably has a video on that, so head on over to his site to learn about that if you need to. But what I want to cover with you is a project that one of the community members within FPV has taken on and has several different releases now, and I think it's pretty stable and it's worked well for me. I haven't featured it on the channel yet, but if you want to add your Betaflight OSD to your recordings, maybe a secondary recording, this is how you can do it. So the first thing you want to do is head over to this URL. Of course, I will put a link in the video descriptions for easy clickability. And right there we see in the big yellow, buy me a coffee. So we have Kirek, Kirek 007, has put together this project for us. You do not have to sign in to GitHub. You can see here, I'm not signed in or signed up. In order to download this, this is the releases pages. So hopefully if you're watching this after this 0.9 version, there might be a 1 or a 0.9.1 version available. This is a beta version. There's really no harm in it because if you create a secondary copy of your working files, you're not losing anything if anything goes wrong, so I think it's safe. But I would encourage you to, if you like the work that we see here, buy them a coffee. It's pretty easy. Click right there. Got a little buy me a coffee link compared to it. So the first thing we need to do is we need to scroll down just a touch, and we're going to click, in my case, I'm running Windows. Of course, if you've got Mac OS, we've got a link for that. Otherwise, you're probably going to be compiling this for your operating system of choice. So we click that and we download. And once we've downloaded that zip file and we've unpacked it to our directory of choice, we see that we have these files here. We want to open up this one, and you'll see that in Windows, we're going to get this little alert. Of course, it's safe. It's just Windows doing one of its things because it's not signed in a particular sort of Microsoft way. It wants to warn us, which is fine. In this case, we can trust his work, and we're going to click More Info and Run Anyway. You can see here we've got a little GUI interface that we've got, as well as in the background it's got kind of a working command prompt back here. If we look into the working folder over here again, or this isn't the working folder but the program directory, we can see that it's using FFmpeg to do a lot of the heavy lifting in the back end. In this folder I've got our working directory here, and you can see I've already got a file that I've used to generate the working OSD. So these are the files from our goggles, is indicated by the G on the file there. So we're just going to drag and drop from our file directory over into the interface. And you can see it fills everything out, recognized SD video. And you can see there it's already filled in the OSD file path because it detected it here. So it's good to have it all in the same location. One thing that's blank is the selected font path. So we go back over to the program directory. If you're looking for a bigger font, you can use the Betaflight 36 font. This one in my particular case that I know works because I've already tested it a little bit is the Betaflight 24. They also have Ardrupilot for 24 and 36 as well. So we're just, whoops, let me just select one file there, please. And then we're going to drag that over here. And you can see, while the video is kind of dark here, this is like the first file as the camera kind of opens to the light sensitivity. That goes away. My source file is this way as well. You can see we have our Betaflight OSD elements as I selected them. And we have these OSD positions down here, the options where we can move things left or right. And you can see back here in our working directory that it's making little changes. We can also move them up or down depending upon where you want them to appear. And we can zoom in and zoom out as well. I'm thinking let's go here and let's move a little bit left, just a touch here. Is that about center? We can also include the SRT data down here at the bottom. If we want to uncheck that, we can see it goes away. Fast SRT renders less pretty font. So we can check that or uncheck that. I'm going to go ahead and leave those checked just so you can see how those things work. And I think for me, this could be useful if those of you that come to the channel want to see this data. You know, I do micros, so I have a lot of analog product reviews that I do. And I think the Betaflight information can be useful for those of you that are looking for additional information, not just the sound and the visual of watching the quad fly, but also the throttle element, which I always put in the top left-hand corner, as well as in this case, Express LRS and its signal quality and signal clarity. Of course, there are other elements you can add to your OSD if you'd like. We don't have individual controls, so this is dependent upon where you place them within Betaflight. Then down here at the bottom, we can hide sensitive OSD stuff. So if you're flying as you shouldn't be, and you want to take the latitude and longitude stuff, if you have a GPS-based quad, you can check that box to remove those individually, or remove those data. It says GPS, alt, home, and dist. I don't have a sample for you there, so you'll have to explore that a little bit. Then down at the bottom, you can generate the PNG sequences only if you have a use for that. Then you just click the render video with OSD file, or you can also check the box to upscale to 1440p. Of course, that's going to be using FFmpeg in order to do that. I'm going to go ahead and click render video with OSD as I've got it on screen. We can see it's processing the frames. If we go in here, we can see we've got a working directory over here, and it's generating a bunch of PNGs. A lot of PNGs. It has to work through that OSD file and get all the images that we need in order to be able to sync them to the video. So we have to wait for this to kind of render itself out. You can see the elapsed time is only 25 seconds and the time remaining about 30 seconds. So let's jump to the next step. As you can see here, it's completed generating all those PNG files. And if we go to our console here in the background, we get a look under the hood at what it's doing. And you can see it's processing the frames, and it gives us our information about that processing. And then if we look back over here, we have all those PNGs. Lots and lots of PNGs. I don't know why I like saying that so much. But you can see it's also generating our file, which is overriding my old file, which is fine because I have that stored in another directory. But here we have to wait. Again, you would normally not necessarily be looking at this console screen. You would be looking at the GUI up front here, and you can say it's rendering video, and it's checked the console log for status. So the GUI is actively watching the console in the background to see its status. So we have to wait. So far, it's been about 2.5 minutes, about 1 minute and 51 seconds on the PNG creation, and about 45 seconds, probably longer now as I've been talking, on the video creation of taking those PNG files and embedding them into our video. And shortly after I pause my talking, done. And we go back over here and we can see we have our generated file here. Well, let's go ahead and play a sample. This is the rendered file, no longer looking at my desktop file as well. And you can see here I've got the Meteor 75 Pro WalkSnail, although it says WD up there. This is WalkSnail. I think either Beta FPV typoed or I typoed when I put in the quad name in there. But you can see we've got the signal down there at the bottom, delay, which the delay is, you know, not accurate. You know, it's been well tested and shown that it's not very accurate. Also, the bit rate that it's recording at, that's information that you might want, as well as the distance. But the distance, it doesn't record because there's no GPS. But then we have our Betaflight elements. We've got our clock down there at the bottom running nice and smoothly. It shows my mode just above the clock. And in the lower left, we've got our voltage. This is a 1S quad, of course, and our throttle position, which you can see it updating in the top left. Of course, the quad name, which is oftentimes a pilot name as well. And I've got a little speck of dust in the top right of my camera. And then we have the Express LRS statistical information for our control link. So yeah, it works great. It only took tops 3.5 minutes on my computer, and I don't have the latest and greatest computer. My computer's a couple years old now, although it does a pretty nice job for what I spent in rendering videos. So you can see a pretty easy process. Marek, M-A-R-E-K, Ruszczk, I think. Nice job. Simple, easy to use program. It does its function. And I started running this at 0.9 or 0.7 version, and now it's up to 0.9 already. Don't forget, I'll put a link down in the video description to the GitHub repository where we have this project. Thank you, Marek, for doing this. It's, I think, going to be a great tool or utility for those that fly WalkSnail to use. And while you're there, click that buy a coffee and throw him a little bit of coffee and Maybe if you have a feature request that you can see is absent in the work already, maybe buy 2 or 3 copies and then drop a little comment in the GitHub and say, hey, can we do this too? Just an idea. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, or otherwise, please let me know in the comments section below. One question I have for you if you've made it all the way here. In review videos, do you want to see the beta flight information on these WalkSnail quads? It's easy with HD0, because that's just standard. Vista, DJI, it's a little bit more challenging. There might be an equivalent of this for those, but specifically for WalkSnail quads, do you want to see this sort of information? Maybe just a minute or 2 sample of the flights? Maybe. Let me know down in the comment section below. I appreciate your time. Thanks for watching. Do do do.